In 1962, we were living in Lynchburg, Virginia. Grover was minister of music at the West Lynchburg Baptist Church, and I was a church organist. Late that winter, we had a contact from First Baptist Church, Owensboro, and they were seeking a minister of music. We were both graduates of Georgetown College, and the thought of returning to Kentucky had a lot of appeal for us. I kind of thought of Grady Nutt, the Christian comedian, who was talking about finding God's will, and he said, it must be God's will because it seems so right to me. Well, we tried very hard not to go down that road, but we prayed diligently, and as it turned out, God did indeed call us to come to First Baptist Church. Grover was hired as a minister of music. I was the church pianist and assistant organist. So we moved our family. Linda was 6 years old and Jenny was 3, and we made our way to Owensboro. We already knew Dr. Nelson, the pastor. He'd been on the staff there for about 3 months, but Grover had done a revival with him in northern Kentucky. So it was great to get back into Kentucky. We loved Kentucky. We loved this church. In August of 1963, Jo McCaslin, who was the organist at the time, very close friend of ours, she moved from Owensboro, and I was hired as organist. And Linda, our daughter, took on the duties of church pianist. And she served in that role as church pianist and handbell director for 20 years until her declining health forced her retirement.
Well, we were pretty excited and grateful that God led us to a church that was accustomed already to full-time music leadership, with a strong, established adult choir as a cornerstone. Our efforts were focused on not only that to continue, but to strengthen and expand the children's and youth choir ministries. And the rising popularity of folk music that was arising at that time brought about opportunities for young people, especially, to get involved in worship leadership and outreach. So we began with that prospect and felt pretty encouraged and about that. And so from there on, it was pretty much the typical format, I think, of our worship services, with the continued training and use of the children's choirs, and to try to develop stronger youth choir ministry, which in those days began to show the competition that would be coming in, already present actually in many ways, sports and activities, families, you know, that we had not encountered even in those first 5 years of our ministry. So we tried to be braced for that and to move ahead in every way that we could to keep the church aware of the need for participation of all ages in the music ministry. And so as we found the general format here, you know, to be typical of what we grew up with, we just kept emphasizing to all of the good old hymns and gospel songs that were always everybody's favorites, and to keep up with the changing times. Our Southern Baptist Convention music department took care of that pretty well with the next 3 revisions of the Baptist hymnal over the next 20 years. And we got in at the very beginning of that, and so we've had the advantage of having a good, strong foundation of hymns and music that the congregation relates to and participates in over the years. We've been very thankful for that.
The first thing that comes to my mind is the ministries of Dr. Nelson, Clarence Nimitz, and Grover. These 3 men had a combination of over 80 years of service that they had given to the church. And God certainly did work through them during their years of ministry. I think their ministry, staying these many years, gave some continuity to their ministry. The congregation appreciated, the fact that they come to stay. People used to ask Grover, how did you stay here for 32 years? And his answer always was, I didn't have any place to go. So, when your ministry touches so many families, such as mine, and I did consider my ministry at the organ as a ministry. When you touch so many lives through weddings and funerals, choir trips, choir programs, you get a bond with the people that is only God-given.
And it lasts forever, too, in so many ways. And the mutual appreciation between staff and congregation still exists today, as you said, and it just sort of permeates everything as we look back on our experiences here too.
As worship leaders, it always was our intent that the congregation would experience God's presence when they met corporately for worship. I took very seriously my role at the organ, always coming to the organ prepared, never trying to draw attention to myself, but to enhance worship. My prayer was that God would prompt the worshiper in the pew to respond and worship truly in spirit and truth, as Jesus had said for us to do.
And I'll add to Martha's prayer, my own constant prayer for our congregation to worship God in spirit and in truth. And as the Apostle Paul urges in Romans 12th chapter, as living sacrifices, holy and pleasing to God. This is your spiritual act of worship. So I believe that all of the church's outreach ministries are indeed influenced by the depth of its worship experiences, those that are very personal and those that are experienced in the midst of the congregation. It all works together for the object of using the gift that God has given us of music to bring this kind of presence into our worship services, His very presence in our lives and in our response to Him. Well, we were both certainly excited and grateful that God led us to this church that, as I said, was already supportive of music leadership in so many ways. And so we pretty soon began to work into what became known as the church music revolution of the late 60s and into the 70s and 80s that affected most evangelical churches, Baptist churches in particular. And our church was privileged to be the first to perform the musical Celebrate Life, which was written by Southern Baptist musicians and became the cornerstone of the type of contemporary Christian music that became so popular during those years and led to so much of the increased participation of youth in the worship, not only the worship of the church, but into the activities of mission and training. And so this was a good time for that to happen for us and to be able to enjoy that and to profit by it here in our church. In fact, the first full-time minister of music here at First Baptist Owensboro was Loren Williams. He served here from 1948 to 1950. So our music ministry in graded form, with trying to cover as much of all the ages with opportunities as we could. Had a good beginning and held on pretty consistently right up until the time that we arrived here and were able to try to help to expand and to make it a little more relative to the times. So I thought that would be interesting for those who may not have been around when he started this ministry, but Martha and I were privileged to know personally at least 3 of the succeeding ministers of music here after that beginning. And so as we took our turn here, we could see there were a lot of opportunities, and I, of course, had to ask myself if I was up to that deeper entry into youth music and leadership. But we had plenty of good help during those years with our the youth ministers who were on staff from time to time and fit right into the path that things were taking. And so this made for a good 20 years or so, I think, of what was called the church music revolution. Made it a lot easier for us. We, of course, all know of churches that didn't have, were not that fortunate to react to those changes. But I feel like First Baptist Owensboro has done a good job of keeping their eyes on the goal of our worship, our corporate worship, and especially to accept these changes and to know that there will be changes yet to come in the future. So I think that we can find some encouragement from that for the musicians of the next and the worshipers of the next generation. They will be better prepared, not only through our ministry, but through the ministry of Mark Slaughter and now Derry Billingsley, because God has taken care of us with the leadership that we need, and we are very grateful for that.
I guess going through the dark times, the hard times, has really grown our faith. And God has sustained us through everything that we've had to go through. He has promised, that He would not bring anything upon us that we could not bear. And we claim that promise. One of my favorite verses in the Bible is Isaiah, the 41st chapter, the 10th verse. Fear not, for I am with you. Be not dismayed, for I am thy God. I will help you. I will strengthen you. I will uphold you with my righteous right hand. In 1980, we were faced by our daughter Linda's need for a kidney transplant. After extensive testing, I was the one that was chose to be the most acceptable donor to give her one of my kidneys. So the successful transplant took place in Louisville at Jewish Hospital on September the 11th, 1980. 9/11 took on a whole new meaning for us, even years before the terrorist attack in New York City.
What was that?
Well, don't you remember the Kidney Day?
Oh, Kidney Day.
We
yes.
we always had to have
on
9/11. We had to have a party, a dinner for the family, balloons. Linda liked all that kind of thing. She always wrote me a thank you note every Kidney Day, and she would sign it, "Love Linda, I love you with all my kidney."
And she also...
That was so special.
She also gave you, the encouragement when the doctors came in and announced, that she had been the one to have the closest match. Mm-hmm. You remember what Linda's reply was?
So I won the drawing.
You won the drawing. That's right. So, and God certainly took care of those days for us.
But our faith and trust had rested in the Lord during those hard times, and particularly the week before her death in November of 2009.
It certainly drawn me in every possible way in relation to association not only with individual Christians, church members, choir members, just members of the congregation. So many ways in which every person has added to my faith, to the strength of my faith, and to the renewal of my faith when it would begin to wear a little bit thin. And so this is just impossible to have adequate words to thank God for. It's just no way to describe it. It's something you have to experience in just giving of yourself completely to the Lord, and for the joy of using and sharing the gift of music that comes directly from His heart with everyone who accepts Christ as Savior. And from there on you grow in your Christian faith, and you're able to express it and to share it in so many ways in the music that we've been able to participate in and to lead in all these years. So that pretty well is the only way I know that's how my faith has grown and has been sustained in all these years, and does right up to now, as I find myself wishing I could be still active in all the many opportunities for service in the music ministry, but just enjoying the application that comes from the faithful leadership that we have, the beautiful things that God shares with us every day and every Sunday.
I pray for our church staff, for their leadership, and that they'll always will seek God's will. I pray that our church will always have this strong emphasis on missions. I pray for our health, and that we can keep on. And I pray for that people in our congregation will be burdened for the lost that are around us.
The mission field at home, that's I share that with you, and I do pray for our staff, and just thank the Lord, first of all, that He has given us the best over the years to work with and to follow leadership. And so we are in such good shape there that I just feel like sometimes I have no need to do anything but just celebrate and to thank the Lord. And we can do that, but we must still be in constant prayer for the health and the ability of our staff members to cover the responsibilities that a church like this offers, and we must remember ourselves to let them know, how much that leadership is appreciated and how much we can encourage it. So there are any number of ways to pray, just every day, and just watch and see what wonders God does through the people that work together to keep His church alive and well and reaching out.
Well, aging definitely brings its own problems with health issues. And it's hard sometimes when you realize you can't do some of the things that you used to do in the church. You have to stand back and let someone else take your place. I was going to say this old saying that the spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak. So I pray that, I ask the church to pray that we will continue, we will not grow weary, we will continue to fight the fight, and we'll be strong in our love for Christ and our desire to serve Him wherever we can.
I don't think I really thought that I was old until I passed 80. But since then, it's just as you say, but it's not too late for the congregation to pray every day that we'll catch up with that trend.
This is not an easy question to answer because there have been so many. I think, first of all, about our presentations of the Owensboro Easter pageant that was led by Mark Slaughter. The community embraced this program, and it did offer a place to come and to worship as they saw the Easter story depicted in drama and music. There's been choir programs. Our mission trip to Hong Kong, that was a phenomenal experience. We met missionaries there and met with their small congregations. We gave a concert at the Hong Kong Baptist Seminary. Those are experiences that were going to last a lifetime, and I will not ever forget. There have been first Christmas programs, choir programs, mission trips, the whole gamut. It's been a good ride.
Well, it certainly has, and that is hard to pin down a few to mention, but I'm glad that you and I still have our memories that working enough that we could go for at least an hour on this. But let me just pick, if I may, three over a broad period of time. Back in December of 1974, as we were beginning and continuing on into 75 and the building of the CLC and everything, don't forget that at that point we were also able to tackle the problem, speaking of old age, of our pipe organ from the early 1920s, and had a lot of, as we used to say, coat hanger wire in it that had held it together. But it was part of our excitement in coming to Owensboro, the fact that you finally were going to be organists and have a real pipe organ to play every Sunday. And that just added a lot to our kept our goals before us, what the Lord wanted us to do and what we could do. But we were able, at that point, in December of 1974, to begin installing a new Reuter. That's a German brand organ, but it's made here in the Midwest, in this country. And to just fit all the space that we had pretty well in the installation here in front of the sanctuary, and the privilege of having a dedicatory worship service with Dr. Don Hustad from Southern Seminary at that time, and also you remember him as the organist and pianist for many Billy Graham campaigns. He was an internationally known organist, and so this was quite a highlight of us, for all of us at that time, as we were taking on all those needed renovations and provisions for the future. So I would rank that dedication service with our new organ to be one of the highlights of our years here. And then along on into 1985, the 150th anniversary of First Baptist Church Owensboro, our sesquicentennial, I can't pronounce it, nor can I spell it, but anyway, that is, I think, the 150th anniversary. With Dr. Jess Moody, former pastor just before Dr. Nelson, to speak and help us to celebrate that anniversary. And he had contributed so much to that, and immediate years before that celebration, and so it was good to have him and Dr. Nelson and several other notable speakers for a whole week of celebration. So I would say the worship times during our sesquicentennial, I got it, that took 3 times, to celebrate that. And I'm going to put in now, maybe do a, maybe not unconventional, but hey, after all, the question is asking, you know, some of the most inspirational. I'm just going to have to add to this list the most recent worship service. Yesterday, Sunday, September the 7th, 2014, we had a combined Sunday school hour with the whole church, that meaning coming together for breakfast refreshments and Sunday school after our fellowship time, and then coming together as the whole church into one worship service. As that also gives me a chance to mention what we could have talked about earlier on about the years of the mid-'80s and on through that to up until this time, where the 2 Sunday morning worship services evolved from that earlier time from 2 duplicate services on Sunday mornings at 11 o'clock into an 8:30 classic called worship service and an 11 o'clock contemporary service, which was at the time time Mark left and Derek came, was called the Elevate service. Good name for that. And so this was our first opportunity, not only for the oldest people and for most of the younger church members over those years to come together, really, and to experience that beautiful thing of worshiping together. And to have the service so beautifully planned, and the music, the scripture, the sermon, everything about it just come together, was one of those times, I think, that we could look back on and compare to our greatest times of the past, but also to look forward to as possibly one of those changes or revisions that we talked about that do come, you know, they are bound to come. And if they do come, what a great blessing that would be to have a service like that every Sunday. Anyway, up until this date, just one day past that service, I think I can include that in one of my favorites of all these years. Well, I wish we could just find the right words quickly to thank God, which we do every day, but to be able to thank this church, every member, every staff member that just fills our memories right now, you know, for all these years, for the fact they've been so loving and compassionate to us in many ways, in the ways we needed most, as well as in ways that even surprise us to this day. It's just the best I know how to express how grateful we are to God for placing us in a church like this, for planting us and letting us grow, the church for letting us grow, and giving us the food that we needed to serve our purpose that was filling our hearts when we came here, kept it from ever fading, and just supported us and sustained us through all these years. So we just thank God for the privilege of serving in First Baptist Church. For myself, 32 years plus many good years of serving other churches in, quote, retirement, which is better than just retirement, I'll tell you. And for Martha being able to serve in this church for many more years too. We thank God, and we appreciate the opportunity to thank the church.
Well said.
Thanks.